Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Soviet bombers are on red alert. A recent parade of words between the British and the USSR over the North Sea has set the hounds loose. However, it's not just rolling English hills that wait for them, but a duo of powerful state-of-the-art interceptors. Developed by the very best British minds, these powerful prowlers are faster than any other bomber the Soviets can muster, carrying 2 nuclear-tipped radar-seeking missiles as well as rockets, and show that the Battle of Britain in the skies is yet to be lost. The Soviet birds scatter into the north wind, chased by these Mach 3 superplanes. Their play at intimidation foiled, and return with their tail between their legs. This is the story of the UK's nearly built, overkill super interceptor, the Vickers Armstrong Type 559. Oh, and don't forget that we have an online merch store. Every week, new items. FoundandExplained.shop. Britain, 1955. And they have a problem. A Soviet one. Russian engineers, flush with knowledge captured from the Germans in World War II, have been developing a new super-fast nuclear bomber, the Tu-22. This superplane could fly at Mach 1.5, dashing within a country's borders and leaving a nuclear present behind. Britain's best aircraft, perfect to go toe-to-toe in the Battle of Britain, were woefully unprepared for this new high-speed and high-stakes reality. They couldn't match the speed of these new Soviet bombers, nor could they carry the new radar-guided missiles that would be needed to take them out. Britain found itself outgunned and undefended from this new-age threat, so Britain needed a new cutting-edge supersonic interceptor. And the best way to get one? A competition between Britain's very best aerospace firms. The great race was on. The British engineers at Vickers were savvy enough to come up with a radical new aircraft design that would have put the Russians on the back burner, but interestingly, they didn't bother to make a website. Don't be like Vickers and use the Squarespace website today. What you might not know is that Squarespace has something new called the Fluid Engine. Start with a best-in-class website template and customize every design detail with a reimagined drag-and-drop technology for desktop and mobile, so you don't have to make 2 sites. Stretch your imagination online with the Fluid Engine built in and ready to go with any new Squarespace site. Plus, that's not all. Every Squarespace website also has a built-in shop to start selling right away, or you can use the campaign marketing tools to start driving business instantly. Seriously, Squarespace is the secret weapon that I even use for my own online store, FoundandExplained.shop. Thanks, Squarespace. And if you want to support the channel and see more videos just like this and get 10% off your first site or domain, go to www.squarespace.com/found. I'm excited for your success, and a special warm hug to all those who click the link, helping me make videos just like this one. The contest would be called Operational Requirement F155, with a goal to produce a new supersonic interceptor by 1962, the same year the Tu-22 would enter into service. Say that 3 times fast. It would have the following conditions: the capability of making an intercept within 20 minutes of target contact, around 250 miles from the UK shore, have a target speed of Mach 1.0, and have a service ceiling of 60,000 feet to reach those high-altitude bombers. It would also carry an armament mixture of infrared-guided missiles and those new radar-guided missiles. It would also have a crew of 2, one that would fly the plane and the other one to launch the weapons, specifically because of the anticipated workload. And speaking of the mission, the jet would need a focus on maximum survivability with multiple engines, ejection seats, multiple crew, and cockpit pressurization. Typical for today, but remember, this is 1955. Naturally, such a contest attracted the attention of a variety of airframe manufacturers, and the floodgates opened, with the likes of Sanders Roe, Fairley Hawker, Armstrong Whitworth, de Havilland, and English Electric, but it's the last design, submitted right before the deadline by Vickers Armstrong, that's the most wild. It was called the Type 559, and it was unlike any other aircraft designed in that era, with some of the most powerful engines ever considered. 2 of them. Originally, the team considered a range of different aircraft designs, but over time it evolved into this final concept. The jet had an unorthodox canard design with a massive chin intake that makes it kind of look like a cartoon character. This intake, split vertically, would feed 2 giant reheated Gyron engines that would be stacked on top of one another. The reheated part of the engines is key, as this process would significantly increase the thrust and make it the fastest jet in the British arsenal. Reheating, now called afterburning, injects additional fuel into the combustor in the jet pipe behind the turbine, reheating the exhaust gas. Afterburning significantly increases the thrust as an alternative to using a bigger engine with its attendant weight penalty, but at the cost of increased fuel consumption, which limits its use in short periods. So generally, it's not on small planes. The aircraft would then have 2 wings at the rear of the fuselage with 2 end plates, including twin rudders, meaning the jet didn't need a tail to steer. The fuselage would also have a typical landing gear that would tuck away neatly, giving room for rocket boosters. Yes, that's right, not only did this plane have an afterburner, but it also had rocket boosters to help get this interceptor up to speed quickly. And quick was the name of the game, with this interceptor believed to be able to climb up to a height of 60,000 feet in 2 minutes at a speed of Mach 2.5, smashing the program requirements. Because of the lack of room under the fuselage, missiles would have to go on top. They were simply that big. 2 Spectre Junior rockets were situated as per usual on each side of the jets at wing level, but 2 larger Blue Jay missiles were to be mounted alongside the upper part of the fuselage between the canard and the main plane. A rare feature to have missiles on top of the plane rather than under it. These bigger missiles might have included a nuclear warhead, increasing lethality and making bomber formations a dangerous way to approach UK air defences. To meet the last of the requirements, the jet would have a twin pressurized cockpit sitting side by side and be made out of aluminium for light performance and titanium for heat management. Its final measurements were a whopping 68 feet long and 42 feet wide, and it made it one of the largest planes to enter the contest. But not the biggest. With this overkill aircraft ready to go, the engineers were confident that they would win against the competition, but we haven't even mentioned just how nuts the competitors actually were. During this development of the 559, the other aircraft firms weren't just sitting around. Saunders Roe would come up with an aircraft called the P-187, a newer version of the SR-177. Their plane looked futuristic with a sleek design featuring a drooped nose. It was faster and could fly to a higher altitude of 76,000 feet, but during the selection process, the military balked at its size. At 84 feet long and weighing 3 times more than the 559, it was simply too big and too heavy. The next plane had the opposite problem. Hawker's design, the P-1103, was tiny with a single but powerful engine. It would have only carried 2 missiles and would have had the same 2 rocket boosters to help it get up to speed. It was dropped as it lacked the redundancy in the engine design that the program required. De Havilland would also submit a similarly small design called the DH-117. It had the 2 engines and it also had rocket boosters, but again it only carried 2 missiles. It wasn't deemed technologically advanced enough to be the next generation interceptor, and it was dropped pretty early into the contest. English Electric would submit an updated version of their P-1B short-range interceptor called the P-8. And yes, this aircraft would also feature a stacked twin engine. I can see you guys already writing in the comments. But the issue with this was, again, the team were looking for a radically new design for this mission, not an updated fighter turned interceptor. Plus, the engineers at English Electric didn't actually believe that it could carry both radar-guided missiles and infrared, and didn't include the technology for both, a killing blow for its proposal. The final 2 entries were from Fairey and Armstrong Whitworth. Fairey's Delta III was considered rather traditional, but it did meet the criteria, although it only carried 2 missiles. And the Armstrong Whitworth AW169 featured a straight-wing twin jet with 2 missiles on each wingtip. And believe me, we need to talk about this aircraft in a completely other video, so make sure you're subscribed to see that one. I should also mention that the Canadian firm Avro was invited to apply with their CF-105 Arrow, but that could only fly up to 50,000 feet and thus did not meet the program requirements. But I'll let you watch the whole video on this amazing plane on the channel already. The military commission sat down and carefully considered the remaining 3 entries, the 559, the Delta III, and the AW169, and made a decision. The AW169 and Fairley's Delta III design were considered to be the 2 best contenders, taking into account the design of the aircraft, the development risks, the capabilities of the design teams, and the manufacturer's workloads. The Vickers 559 would rate behind them for several reasons. While the performance and handling was superior to the 2 other aircraft, there was a concern that the lateral control would be too difficult, and the canard layout was too unknown at the time for such a big project. In addition, the placement of the weapons above the plane, not under, was believed to increase drag, something that you don't want for an interceptor. Plus, there was also the concern that the team behind the 559 would be too busy working on the Vickers Swallow bomber. Remember that insane bomber that we had on the channel a few months ago? Well, the ministry believed that this project would go ahead and Vickers would be under too much pressure to deliver both. The 559 project would come to an end, but this wasn't the end of the story. After the selection committee commissioned more work into the 2 designs, the Delta III was selected to begin prototyping, but it would never get built. In 1957, only 2 years after this whole process began, the Soviet Union revealed that it had the technology to launch nuclear weapons via rockets, not by fast bombers, and the scope of the potential conflict changed. Why would Britain develop an interceptor when nuclear mid-range missiles could rain down from East Germany? And ironically, the plane that this interceptor was planned to counter, the Tu-22, failed in itself. This risk turned out to be overblown. The Tu-22 suffered significant performance problems that so limited its range that only small numbers were ever deployed as bombers. The entire project was then cancelled, but the work wasn't wasted. In the 60s, the British government encouraged the formation of the British Aircraft Corporation, consisting of a merger of English Electric, Vickers Armstrong, and Bristol's Aeroplane Company, as well as Hunting Aircraft. Vickers Armstrong would bring its research from the 559 to the English Electric aviation firm and combine their designs to be rolled into the new version of the English Electric Lightning that would fly throughout the next few decades. So in a way, the 559 didn't actually die on the planning table, but was reborn new and improved, with the Electric perhaps featuring its own video here down the line. Part of this research was provided by militaryfactory.com, a great website with plenty of details about projects just like this, so please go check them out and let us know what you think in the comments. And thank you again so much for watching.